Hey, Mike.
You've gotten really lazy. Now you don't even say hello. This is Gooners podcast, and then throw it to me. It's just Mike is the first word of the podcast.
It was Mike, and then something went across the window, and I got a moment of like, why is there a truck? Anyway, thank you for taking time away from your WWE tour to take time to pod with the Gooners podcast.
You know, I'm a busy man. I had about 9 hours of WrestleMania yesterday. I've got another thing tonight that I'm doing, autograph signings, all that stuff. But the pod comes first, you know.
It does.
The pod comes first. It's more important than anything else. And that's the way it is. So how was your non-wrestling weekend?
It was kind of boring. Ollie had football practice both Saturday and Sunday.
Now, how does that, like, I mean, are there goalies? I remember when my son was like 4
It's like
months old.
they run around, the coach tries to get him to shoot on goal. They play with like knocking over cones. They do an obstacle course and then shoot a ball at the end. I won't say this just because he's my son, but I think he's the only one who gets it. One kid ran around with a cone on his head the entire time. So
speaking of cones on head, you want to introduce our special guest? Normally I do the over-the-top guest introductions, but I'm throwing it to you for this one because there's a connection between you guys.
There is. So I had to ask him his age. So we've known each other for 31 years. So today we're joined by my cousin Sam, who is a massive Evertonian, massive Toffee, and yes. And we've kind of talked for a year or so about having him come on, and luckily we got it to work. But yeah, it's my cousin Sam. I don't know. We were talking about it just briefly earlier about the whole Everton connection, and But hi Sam, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I don't know the etiquette here, but I'm not wearing trousers. I assume that's okay.
No one knows.
Yeah, clearly you were informed on the etiquette here, but I don't think anyone here is wearing trousers. Did he tell you about the bell?
So no. Mike will ring a bell whenever something English happens. Like if we use a phrase or a term.
Like this pod is going to be diabolical. So yeah, I'll try not to do it too much. But
blimey.
We have an interesting family dynamic of football, and Sam and I were just talking about this. So I was speaking to our grandfather, and he told me that his grandfather, his father, all of his brothers were Gooners up until our granddad, who's Villa and Chelsea.
Correct, yeah.
Right? Which is strange. And then my dad went West Ham based off of youth boy days. Your dad, my uncle, and your two brothers are all Everton supporters.
Yeah.
Why? Because Everton haven't, like, respectfully, Everton haven't like done anything amazing in your lifetime.
And my view of the entire road's ancestry is that they all come from Hemel Hempstead. So, well, I mentioned on every pod. So, how do you become an Everton supporter?
Well, my dad was born in Wigan, I think, which is roughly near Liverpool, and in fact, the year I was born, Everton won the league, so that's my claim to fame, and we've won an FA Cup in the last 31 years, so it's been a great journey.
The year before I arrived there, I guess, didn't we take it the following year, or was there a year in between?
I think Liverpool next year, yeah, and then you guys.
And then us.
Yeah. But
it's more recent than Tottenham, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, but there's not a year that goes by that I don't think about changing teams, but you never do you?
And Sam did accompany me to the Emirates, was it last season for the home opener?
It was loud. What a game, Leicester.
Yeah, 4-3. Yeah. We nabbed it right at the end. So,
he's your good luck charm. Are you taking him again in August this year?
If he paid for it, yeah.
I did pay for it last time because I wasn't going to make him pay to go see two teams he didn't want to play, but we'll be back in August, so maybe we can do it again.
Wait, well, let me before we get into that Everton game, which I'm sure we have some varying opinions on that, but I think we'll all agree that it was.
Is this live? Are we live, Mike?
We are live. I don't think anyone's watching, but we're live. So, but yeah, we do want to mention the FBA awards because with the help of our listeners nominating us, we did get nominated to the finals of the Football Blogging Awards for the best international content creators.
It makes me believe they don't actually listen to this if we keep getting nominated.
Exactly. I mean, we keep finding, we started with best podcast and we almost won that last year. And each year now that, that the awards get bigger, we have to keep finding smaller and smaller little niches to get into. This international podcast, next year it'll be best podcast with someone from Denver and someone from DC. We are going to eventually win some shit. But if you want to help us try to do it this year, you can go to the footballbloggingawards.co.uk and vote for the Gooners podcast on the best international. Do us a favor and vote for our mates at Same Old Arsenal for the best podcast, and also Gandermonium, our friends from West Sutton, for the best non-league blog. They do a really good job. And if you want to do it on Twitter, you can do votegooners.us, and it'll take all of the time away from having to create your own tweet. So it'll save you a lot of time and effort, and it will help us. So now, well, you got to talk about Everton with a few people in the chat. Carrie's there, Dean's there, a few more who haven't piped in yet. But
yeah,
let's get started and get this over with.
Yeah, Mike, I jinxed us because I texted you the evening before saying that we were going to lose. I had that feeling.
I didn't see it. I have you on mute. So.
Sam had said it. Wait, so do I have to re-say that now?
No, I'm saying I have your texts on mute, so I didn't see you say it.
Mean. This is mean.
That makes two of us.
Yeah. So Sam texted me a few days before saying, I reckon Everton are going to nap this, and in August, if we win, let's make a bet. I would have to walk around in an Everton shirt for the day, which I said, nah, I'm not doing that. But yeah, Mike, we lost. And I know I jinxed us. That's my bad. But it was just let's go to lineup. I mean, it was strange. Seeing El Nini is no surprise since we were so short on central midfielders. But that being said, we had so little creativity. I don't know why he doesn't start Ramsey in that midfield, but just the whole situation just seemed off from the start. And yeah, I don't know what to think about it. It's just a strange situation. And maybe we had Napoli in mind for Thursday. I don't know.
I mean, it's tough because you do have a game in 4 days, which is incredibly important. I mean, I don't think he just is not wired to sacrifice anything, especially European competitions. This is his first year in the Premier League, and he seems to want to win the Europa League more than the Premier League top four. But, ultimately, we were kind of limited to the fact that Xhaka was injured. He's still got that penis injury. And Torreira suspended. Finally done with that now, but just in time for Socrates to be suspended. But it was always going to be a different choice. I would have gone with Callum Chambers on an emergency recall. But failing that, I backed El Neni to do his job. I mean, this is what he's here for, the occasional spot start. You'd hope it'd be in a cup-type game rather than in a game, where so much was at stake on the road, away from home against Everton. But, I don't know that he particularly pulled off his job. I don't know that he particularly played any better or worse than he is capable of. But we had no choice to make changes, and we never really play well when we make too many forced changes. Changing the dynamic, changing the formation, strategizing for the team we're playing is one thing, but when we just have to plug people in because other people aren't available, we don't seem to have that continuity.
I wonder if him coming from Spain and France has hindered his ability to look at matches like this, because let me preface by saying, in Spain and France, there are a lot of throwaway games where you go to an opponent and you can already write that you're going to win.
Ibar.
Exactly.
Theater league
right.
type games.
With Everton and Wolves, when we looked at our remaining fixtures, we both said those are the 6 points. Like, those are the two banana skins, and one of them was one. But there are no throwaway games in the Premier League. Even if you're going to Huddersfield, you can expect a tough match. You can't go to Everton and just rest a bunch of players. And so I don't know what he saw in the build up to that.
But man, he's learning the Premier League. I mean, this is his first year here as well. And yeah, you're supposed to understand the game. But I mean, just like players take a while to bed into the Premier League, I would expect managers to as well, which is why sometimes you see better results, I guess, when you hire a Premier League retread at first because they understand the league, and then of course the fact that they're shit ends up catching up with them, and and you end up like Sam Allardyce and Alan Pardew and all these guys that that never stick around. But I'd rather see somebody who's kind of gradually grinding to learn the league, making some mistakes along the way, not hurting the team too much in making those mistakes, and then 2 or 3 years later, he knows it. So
yeah, Sam, from an outsider's perspective, I want to ask you about Mesut Ozil. We have a lot of entitled fans at Arsenal who are either Ozil in, Ozil out. Ozil shouldn't be the captain. He should be the captain. When we lose, it's Ozil's fault. When we win, he's the greatest player in the world. How do you view him just as a football fan, neutral, whether he plays for Arsenal, Germany, Real Madrid?
Do you know what? I really don't rate him. I think he'd go well in somewhere like you talk about Spain, where you've got these throwaway games, games that he can control it. He can just ping the ball from the middle. But if you've got to work hard in the Premier League, which you do, and you're a grafter, he is nowhere near good enough, let alone be a captain, especially for a club like Arsenal. When you have a look at like Tony Adams and captains like that, Patrick Vieira, and then you go to Mesut Ozil, it's laughable. I would say
it's really amazing that skill will get you only this far in the Premier League. I mean, you could be the most talented player. I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I don't think Messi. Ronaldo's done it before, but Lionel Messi, I think, would be considerably downgraded from what we're used to seeing from him. I'm not saying he would suck, but his ability to do the things that he's doing in Spain would be largely curtailed by aged, hardened professionals who know how to defend and stick a leg in without I believe that. And so Ozil, not necessarily being the strongest of constitutions, he is game plannable, easily game plannable.
Yeah,
he is. And we saw just recently Arsenal take a trip over to Abu Dhabi, I believe, where there is a world that a lot of Arsenal supporters do not know about Mesut Ozil. And here it is, Mike, right? On Instagram alone, he has 19.5 million followers as a player, okay? I just quickly put into my search bar, Everton, 750,000, right?
For the team account.
But hold on. The defending champions, Manchester City, okay, their Instagram followers for the defending champions are 11.5 million. So say what you want about Ozil. The reason why he has signed this massive contract at Arsenal, the reason why he gets the starts that he does, yeah, he's got the skill, and on a day we see it. But for the most part, it's because he puts viewerships on TV and in the seats. He jersey sales, the whole thing. And that's you talk about it a lot, hating it. It's the brand. And
I hate it.
He is probably one of the top 5 most popular footballers in the world. And we're lucky enough we see him wear a cannon on his shirt. And it's frustrating because we talk about it all the time. On his day, he could tear Everton apart single-handedly. He could tear Manchester United apart single-handedly. We just don't see it enough. We see it 1 in every 20 games, whereas a Messi gives it to you 18 out of 20 games, and that's why he's considered the greatest of all time or in that conversation. So, Sam, I appreciate your thoughts. I think a lot of Arsenal fans echo it, but I think even more fans don't because of that symbol that he has outside of the game.
There's a lot of those players.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'd say there's a lot of those players now, and I think Pogba's another one that fits in that bracket. And then Hazard's on another level. But there's a lot of these kind of, Rolls Royce players that fit exactly under what you just said, and they're marketable, right? And that's where the money is.
Paul Pogba, 34.2 million Instagram followers. And God knows how many of those are fake, bots. But as you just said,
33.8 million of them are fake.
Yeah.
No, but it screws up the football because it's just not about just football anymore. And when you are that big, and you're that big, not necessarily because solely of your football, you're going to have agendas. I mean, it's not hard to believe and understand why there's all this Mesut in, Mesut out crap, and that it's so bipolar where you could almost not even be in the middle of the discussion at all. And you hate to see that, but they've cultivated a lot of that themselves, and unfortunately that's why I despite how good he is on his day, I would rather see somebody a little less talented, but a little more consistent and a little less of a brand, be our talisman rather than somebody who's so volatile like that. I just don't see how the team gets to the next level with an issue like that hanging over its head. And I'd say the same damn thing about United and Paul Pogba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to maybe an Andre Gomez type player later on, but let's go back to the match. So Everton scored inside 10 minutes. I think the ball took 4 deflections, one of them off of Jagielka's wheeled Walker, and it's a 1-0 lead for Everton. Lots of debate on whether it's a foul throw or not. First, Sam, I'm going to go to you on why you don't think it is, and then Mike jump in.
Do you know that he doesn't think it is, or are you just assuming?
Well, so I watched the majority of the match on my phone out at Ollie's football practice, and so I didn't get to see everything, and I just kept hearing it was a foul throw, which it wasn't. Sam, I mean, I'll let you take over, but I agree with you 100%.
On what you haven't said yet.
Because I know what he's going to say because we've already argued over it.
Yeah, so I took the liberty of looking through the FA rules on this, okay? So the foot has to be either on or below the line, a part of the foot. Now, Lucas Dean is well known for his long feet, okay? That's a fact neither of you probably know. So his foot was on the line and therefore making a legitimate goal. Therefore, the 3 points. Thank you.
And he signs off.
We've had Sam on the podcast joining us today. Thank you. I'm looking for the photo I downloaded of the FIFA laws of the game, and I swear it says the opposite of what you just said, Sam. It says that the entire foot must be either outside the field of play or on the line. In other words, it can't be on the field of play. It's not the rule with the where.
And Mike,
in hockey, where if it's touching the line, it's okay.
I did the same thing as Sam. As I went and looked it up, not only on the FA. I saw someone post FIFA, and then I even looked it up with the rule book we get with the kids, and it just says that a part of the foot has to be touching the line. So it could literally be your heel, and the referees are supposed to let that play. And then someone even did a graphic of these two little feet.
Listen, I'm reading from the FIFA procedures. It says, at the moment of delivering the ball, the thrower must be facing the field of play, have part of each foot either on the touchline or on the ground outside the touch. Okay, that's
so either.
Yeah. So part of each foot. It's and now I can see what's interesting.
So here's what I watched Match of the Day this morning, and even Ian Wright and Michael Carrick both said, "Well, that's new. I didn't know that."
No, so I had no idea.
It's one of those genuine rules where I think at first a lot of people were angry about it, and then when you go back and you look at it, but here's my problem.
It's funny because I'm reading it today very differently than I read it yesterday.
Exactly.
I was thinking that like all of his foot had to be either on the touchline or outside.
Here's what bothers me about it, though. Is the middle referee wasn't even watching the throw happen. So had his foot been completely over the line or he lifted his feet, the ref would have missed it because his line of sight was the penalty box. And I get that. So shouldn't the linesman on that side be on the halfway point staring at his feet to assume?
No one watches that, and no one watches whether a guy goes 15 feet beyond where the ball actually left the field of play. But I mean, let's rein this in a little bit, because to imply that he had, if he had been 3 inches further back and the throw landed in the box 3 inches further back, that we wouldn't have looked like a bunch of Benny Hills trying to defend the throw in. I mean, that's naive. So, diving to earn penalties is one thing, that's pathetic, but running, too far forward or having your foot an inch or two over the line, these are not things that change the game. And, if you're standing in the pub or at the game shouting the moment he releases the ball, look, he's cheating, instead of just saying after the goal scored, looking back to see if there's any possible way that it could be disallowed, then fine. But it's not like an offside where the defense completely shut off, because they were expecting a whistle to come that never came. So, it's not why we gave up the goal, and whether it's a foul throw or not really is irrelevant on that.
What was it that Monreal was moaning about? Was it offside? Is that what he was saying?
I think they were moaning offside, but clearly,
I think he thought Jagielka was offside, and he wasn't.
No. I think he played them on, right?
Montreal will moan about things every once in a while.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I don't get about the Ozil captaincy is I'd rather have a player like Monreal who does want to fight for those little calls. But at the end of the day,
that's true, because you've always said that the problem is that we don't argue enough. We don't stand up for ourselves enough. No. Usually with foul calls and stuff. But I mean, not that it'll help you on that call itself, but it does kind of, it affects the referee later on. I'm not saying cheat. I'm just saying don't just roll over and accept decisions that don't go your way all the time.
I mean, there's a reason they called it Fergie time, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you put a little bit of fear voice in the ear of the official, they're going to get swayed a little bit. And it's all part of playing the game. The worst thing in football is not finding or setting an early rhythm. It's something we couldn't do from kickoff. I think in the first couple minutes we threatened Pickford, but not enough to say like, hey, we're going to own this match. Mike, why do you think our away form and home form are so drastically different?
They're not similar?
No. I don't know why I wrote that.
Well, I got to finish eating this piece of bacon, and then I'll answer your question.
Sam, that's how professional we are, and we still get nominated for awards.
Well, it's because we're sponsored by bacon. Bacon, it's really good. All right, now we've done our responsibility. All right. I mean, the home and away thing is it's the discussion of the week. It's the last 3 years, frankly. And I hope on Thursday when I do on our behalf a live pod with Tom and Drew from O'Hanlon's in New York City, we're going to talk about this because they've done dossier after dossier on the subject, but it's insanity. I mean, I looked at our home form, our away form. I think on the form table at home, we're tied for second with Liverpool, 4 points behind City, and then on away form, we're 10th or 11th in the table, and tied with some Everton club. And how can the play? I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not anymore an athlete. It's been a while since I've been an athlete. So I don't really get the mentality, but how can they be so much worse away from home than at home? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, Sam, I'm sure you're not familiar with our home record, but I think we've only lost once, and that was to City on the first day of the campaign. And outside of that, maybe one draw, Mike. Is that right?
I think 2 draws.
Yeah.
And there are teams that are better. I mean, City's better at home, but there's a ton of teams that are better away from home, and not all of them are the quote-unquote top 6. I mean, it's the point where we go away from home, and like you said, when you go to Huddersfield, we beat them 2-1, and they hadn't scored in like 9 games, and we conceded to them and barely beat them. But unless you're playing Huddersfield or Fulham or something, something like that, it feels like we're the underdogs in the match, and that we should, be expecting to drop points, and that I don't think should be the case for us. So, are they being influenced by the crowd? Is it, as I think it is, the weak mentality from the players who, just don't feel like they should be dominating games on the road because that's just what's happened over the last 3 years? Or are they getting drugged, Sam, in the opponent's dressing room? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in the away dressing room in Goodison, but I believe they're probably sending in like
very rapey. That's what they say about the away room. Yeah, but Sam,
they look a little rapey coming out of the room.
What do you think is? I mean, because it affects every football club, like Mike just said. Like, what do you think is that huge psychological issue from home and away?
Well, I mean, first off, as an Everton fan, we ride off Arsenal away. We've never done well there. I think even Tony Adams scored against us once, right, a few years ago, and absolutely, yeah, that's the one. Belter it was, to be fair. But we were shit then, less shit than we are now. But yeah, I think especially with Arsenal, there doesn't seem to be a tremendous amount of, and it hasn't been for years, of fight there. If nitty gritty fight, yeah, they've got the skill, and at home with that big pitch, a lot of room, there's comfortable, and they'll win games. But away, especially at Goodison, which is a tight. Fans are close to the pitch, players like that, and it's tough to play at Goodison. And we're on a bit of an up at the moment with the buzz, and so it's not an easy game, And Chelsea have lost there, Liverpool have drew, so I don't think you should really put too much into yesterday, because there's a lot easier places to go to Goodison at the moment. But it's a tough one. But it seems to be quite a consistent problem with Arsenal, right?
Did you feel? I mean, as an Everton, okay,
Yeah.
so you're supporting Everton. 10 minutes in the game, you've taken the inevitable lead. Do you feel nervous for? I mean, are you clenched for the last 80 minutes, or are you feeling pretty good about your ability to ride it out, given the things you've just said about how you feel about Arsenal, which are pretty accurate?
Do you know what? Yesterday, yeah, I felt very comfortable. Genuinely very comfortable. I thought the first 10 minutes would be a big test, and then when Lacazette missed in that first couple of minutes, I thought, do you know what? They're for the taking here. And then once we scored, it was never really in doubt.
That's what I thought you would say, and that's I don't mean to sound entitled, but that shouldn't be the case with the disparity in these teams. But it's just hearing it both confirms my concerns and pisses me off, and but it's clear that is how the players and the coaches feel on the opposing teams as well. I mean, you heard from Troy Deeney last year from Watford after we capitulated against them, and there's less of that going on now, but only a little bit less going on, and I think it's going to take cycling out of a lot of these players before that truly happens.
Yeah, and Mike, I mean, our best chances came from when second half when Pickford punched the ball, it fell to Ramsey's foot, and who on the volley got good connection, but he skies it, and then Mickey went close with that nice shot across goal. That sums up our day. We had 2 real attempts on goal, which is not good enough for a team that has Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ozil, and I don't care who the opposition is. If you only put 2 attempts on target, but you're not troubling a keeper, and I mean, Mike, you know how much I love England and English players. I think Pickford is world class. So for me, if you're not even troubling him in the net, you're never going to win matches. It's absolutely it's embarrassing.
Sorry, Mike. From an outsider's point of view, how come Aubameyang didn't start? Because he's a player that I fear.
From an insider's point of view, we have the same question.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. I honestly think he had one eye on Napoli because we have started off very, very poorly in every Europa League tie. This one's falling at home. So I think that he looked at Thursday and thought there's a little bit more emphasis on keeping some players fresh. I think that's why El Nini started and Ramsey didn't. I think that's why Aubameyang hasn't started. But Lacazette's been on fire, man.
It's been a few Premier League games in a row.
Lacazette's been on fire. And I don't know.
Does he play them together?
Every once in a while he does. Every once in a while, but not often.
And it always seems to pay off when he does. But again, it depends on the type of game and the type of opponent and who's behind them, putting balls through for them. Usually it's Lacazette putting balls through for Aubameyang. But I mean the 2 shots on goal. The Mkhitaryan one was it was amazing that he got it that close. If he could have curled that just a little bit more, that would have been one of the goals of the season, in my view. But Ramsey, I mean, that was the easiest Rabona opportunity, or at minimum a back heel. I mean, Ramsey just the straightforward shots don't work for him, other than that one against Galatasaray like 8 years ago. But when the goal's gaping that much, you've got to just Rabona that. I mean,
and not to go off topic.
Should we sell him as soon as possible? I think we should sell him before the end of the season.
Not to go too off topic, but you guys getting rid of Ramsey is mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing.
Did you see what he's going to be making though?
Oh yeah, well I don't blame him
at Juventus. I mean, he's on 400,000 a week, so we can't afford to play that. And the thing. No, well, it's ridiculous money. But
I didn't think you wanted to give him a new contract. That's why he's leaving.
The rumor is that a contract was on the table, and that we pulled it after it sat on the table long enough. I don't think anyone really knows, but
there's some rumors that the agent kind of was checking around other teams for what he could get by leaving on a free after the contract had been verbally agreed to. There's also the matter of the leadership at Arsenal changing from when the attempts were made to sign him to when they were finally pulled the contract. I don't doubt that they pulled the contract. I just doubt all the rumors and the hysteria that it was a shit move of Arsenal to do that, because I think there's more to it than that. Yeah. But But the one thing that has surprised us, and we've talked about it almost every week that he's played, is after it became clear that he was leaving, he has remained committed. And unlike most players who are in that position, he has been one of our best players.
Yeah. He will be in the top 3 players of the season.
Yeah, for us. And he was the top player of the season last year. So, he hasn't tuned out. He's gone for everything that he possibly can. And I've changed my stance about, plugging guys in like that who are one eye on their next club a few months from now, because I think he helps us more on the pitch than off. So it's a weird thing that he didn't start, but I know that he is wanted in the European games by Emery, and I almost forgot the name of our manager. We can question it, and believe me, Arsenal Twitter is questioning his lineup selection once again.
Yeah. So, Sam, on a day that could have been way more comfortable for Everton, and I'm thinking of chances that Gomez, Richarlison being absolutely shit, does that actually sum up your season? Do you have higher expectations for this specific team, or are you kind of where you should be at this point?
Yeah. So for me, we started the season well. There was a purpose, because what we haven't had at Everton for years is a structure or any sort of idea how to play, and that goes back. I think so. Martinez's first season, we still had Moyes' defense and his flair, and I think we're very close to coming fourth, pipped to the post by you guys, funnily enough. And ever since then, it's just been gradually getting worse and worse and worse. We've been spending silly money. We bought like 7 number 10s, and then this under Silva, it seems to be clicking. I thought we had a good summer last season. But it's definitely improvement to be done, and I think he's the right manager for us for now. But some of the football we play last few weeks has been very positive. So good end to the season for us, and then next season hopefully we'll get 7th.
At the pub at O'Hanlon's yesterday, I was watching the game with good old Sebi, which is always fun, and he poses the question: would you take Richarlison as a Ramsey replacement? And a few people were instantly like, "Yeah, I'd take him." And I'm like, "I'm not so sure." And then 2 minutes later, he misses like a gaping wide opportunity. I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to take him.
Different players, though.
Yeah, he's a great player. I take Andre Gomez.
He could go that next level.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he's only 21.
Yeah.
Well, and that was going to be my next question to you, Sam. I mean, I hate Andre Gomez because he goes to the ground too quickly. But who doesn't in today's world?
Toffee doesn't.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to hold on to those 2 players this summer? Do you think, hey, the blocks are in to build upon, or are you kind of nervous, like, hey, this could be a summer where we lose 1 or 2 of our key players?
No, I don't think we'll lose. So I think Gomez will stay. He wants to stay. He's enjoying it, and I'm in love with him. What a beautiful man. He'll stay. He wants to stay. I think Zuma was another player I'd like to keep, but there's no way Chelsea will get rid of him, especially if they're on a transfer ban. Richarlison will stay for the next couple of seasons for sure, and then we'll sell him on for a big profit, I imagine. But our director of football, he was at PSV, and he's all in the okay. Let's buy players young for a small amount, and then we'll sell them on big.
Well, you have to have that kind of churn. Even big clubs have to have that kind of churn.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you end up losing your players on a free, and I mean, it can't be everybody. You don't want to be a selling club, but I mean, Richarlison cost silly money, didn't he? I mean, wasn't it almost 50 million?
Nearly 50 million, 40 million, I think, with add-ons.
And you more than likely will get a big profit off of him in a couple of years.
Yeah,
I mean, that seemed way over the odds. It seems to be working out.
I mean, all clubs are selling clubs, right? Let's be honest. Apart from probably Barcelona, Real Madrid, all clubs are selling clubs. Maybe even City now.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much true.
Madrid and all them only become selling clubs when they buy so many players that you end up with someone surplus to requirements.
Exactly, right? When it's like a James Rodriguez type of situation.
I'm planning this whole podcast to be able to say surplus to requirements.
I don't know if, Mike, you've seen this, but Fredo just sent a text with someone claiming this is Spurs shirt next year, and it's a full red kit. And I'm like, there's no way. There's There's no way that they would wear a full red kit. Right. So, Mike,
that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
It is. Outside of Leno, soccer.
By the way, did you see Tom's text in that same chat?
Yeah,
5 minutes earlier.
Maybe if we wore more navy.
No, I'm not talking about that one.
Oh no, I didn't.
Okay. Anyway.
So outside of Leno, Socrates, and briefly Ramsey, and I'm going to throw Iwobi in there, I don't think any player rates higher than a 4. And I'm going to give Leno an 8 because without him in goal, it could have been easily a 3 or 4-0 loss. And
how many times have we said that this season?
Well, how many times have we were nervous in the beginning of the season, and now the guy is turned into a fucking construction worker building walls in the back. And I will say this, Mike. When you go away to Everton and you lose 1-0, at least you can walk away from there saying it's Everton. It's a hard place to go and play. And, when you look at our last couple matches, you look at that one and you go, okay, that and Wolves are the two struggles, right? For any team in the Premier League. If you walk away from there losing 4 or 5-0, then all of a sudden the team is down. So I think that he helped save grace a little bit. And thank fuck we have a young keeper that we can trust because we haven't had that for quite some time. And I thought he was probably the only player that rated higher than a 7.
Yeah, and he is the less time he has to think, the better he is. I mean, some of those reaction saves are just ridiculous. Even when it comes right to him, as did a couple times, the speed at which it comes at him and not giving up any kind of playable rebound it's impressive. So I'm super comfortable with him, and maybe the only person that gets higher than a 4, other than the people you mentioned, maybe a 5 from Mustafi. Ironically enough, he wasn't that bad yesterday. When you're saying that as like a point of pride, it's not a good situation. But now Sam, you experienced Mustafi for a little while, didn't you? I mean, how long was he there for?
See, Everton reject. That's where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everton's a feeder club for Arsenal.
Well, no, Arsenal is a feeder club to Everton when it comes to a certain.
Yeah, I was going to say Theo Walcott completed 1 pass in the match, which is more than he's done for us in his entire career.
Do you know
no offside, I don't think.
Do you know what? I get your frustration with him. I really do.
When Everton signed him, I think the thought was you guys haven't truly appreciated this guy. He's going to come good here, and I couldn't even be bothered to hit the bell on that one, but I mean he's shit.
Yeah, he'll be gone in the summer for sure. He'll go to Southampton, I reckon.
that would at least complete the circuit.
You gave us Walcott, we'll give you Francis Jeffers, right? So that we're even.
He might not even be good enough for Southampton. I mean, he might literally have to go abroad or play for Huddersfield next season or something. I just don't. No, it's just not there.
I think the Championship's more his level.
I hate to say it, but I agree.
Yeah, I do too. So let's wrap up the match, Mike, with all agreeing that there's no man of the match for Arsenal, and I'm going to give it to Jagielka because he's old as fuck and he actually still plays football. I want to quickly go to the title race because it's pretty exciting. I think every week people are watching it wondering what's going to be happening. So I just quickly want to ask, and I know where Sam's going to have his take on this, but who do you think will win the title, and who do you want to win the title? So Sam, we'll go to you first because I've already heard Mike, but then Mike, just jump in at the end. Who do you think will win, and who do you want to win?
I mean, do you want me to answer this?
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know who I think will win because it's very interesting and very good. And I like both. I hate to say it, but I like Klopp. I think he's a very likable man. I mean, I want City to win, and it's not from the Everton-Liverpool connection. It's because I don't like Liverpool fans, and they'll cling on to it.
So then it is about that, then.
Yeah, it's fully about that, Mike.
That's part of the whole thing. No, say there's not anything about the rivalry, and then say it's because I hate their fans.
Oh yeah, but it's got nothing to do with the Everton. It's just horrible people, aren't they? Let's be honest.
I know a couple of good ones, but beyond that,
Well, you're the lucky one then.
So you think that? So you think that City will win as well?
I think City will win because I think they've got. So Liverpool seems to be scraping victories and getting a lot of luck to get there, but I think City seem to have they seem to be winning games properly. I know that may not mean much, but it only takes one loss, right? And I think that's all it's going to take in this title race, whoever that comes from. And I think there's a mistake. There's a mistake in Liverpool where there isn't a mistake in City.
Yeah, I take that same approach. I mean, we've seen Liverpool make mistakes at important moments before, and while it was completely different players in a completely different era, You just feel that they're going to start to get a little tighter as the season gets closer to a close.
Yeah,
they're going to start, pressing a little bit, and not in the football sense, but in the emotion and the mentality sense. And City, the only thing that can stop them in my mind is just the complication of just literally being still in 4 competitions.
Yeah.
But if anything, I mean, you'll see if push came to shove, you'll see a second team in the FA Cup final if you have to, if it gets in the way of. Although that's after everything's done, actually. So forget that. But I think they'll win. I think they just have too much quality. I certainly would prefer that they win, because it's almost like saying, I prefer nobody wins than Liverpool, because Man City's just they're so vanilla. They're so, it's like, how were you supposed to ever beat those guys? So I don't care if they win. But, I mean, there's two clubs that we can hold over their heads that they haven't won in 30 to 50 years, 30 to more than 50 years, almost 60 years, and that's Spurs and Tottenham. And the longer neither of them have any kind of wonderful honors to be able to crow about, the better.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a lovely stadium, though. You might not agree, but wow.
But Mike, someone brought up
a great place to take a shit.
Someone brought up a good point with Liverpool supporters. All they keep hearing is, you've never won the Premier League, you're this big club, blah blah blah. And now and every time they get close, so I get the whole Liverpool mentality and their supporters saying,
Istanbul.
Yeah. So
I wish we had that.
It goes both ways, exactly. One of the funniest things, when I remember Sam and I were together a few years ago, and it was the Chamberlain jersey that I got framed now, but he touched the Champions League patch, and it still rings to me when he's like, "Ooh, that's what that feels like." Mike, as we make our run for top 4, I don't think we can drop more than 3 to 4 points from this point on in the season. Losing away to Everton was a very nervy match, like we talked about last week. Are you nervous that we might fall out of top 4, seeing that Chelsea's up right now at halftime 1-0 to West Ham? Or are you thinking, hey, all those teams still need to play each other? Yeah, we're going to be fine.
I forgot they were playing today, but I'm very nervous, but I'm not angry nervous. Like there's a lot of people. And this gets into the constant discussion about Arsenal supporters and Arsenal Twitter. I mean, there's a lot of people who were really, really happy after last Monday and are just absolutely losing their shit after yesterday. And, it's about the mentality. The players didn't look up for it. They, and that's, I guess, worse than just playing hard and losing. It is. But, I mean, you can't just look at each individual game and after a good performance be like doubly as upset about a bad performance afterwards. Not this season. We're going through a learning process, and this last game was awful. But overall, they're still in a position where I didn't expect us to be. Going for top 4 with a very good chance of making it, and in the Europa quarterfinal. I mean, I hate this expression, but I would have taken that if you had given it to me at the beginning of the season. So, but Watford are going to be very tough next Monday. It's never an easy place for us to play. Wolves are going to beat us. I mean, I just think that they are. Unless we come out like we come out for cup finals and the way we've come out against top 6 teams this year, even the Liverpool game that we lost 5-1, we came out strong in that game. We just got counter punched and fell apart. But it's going to be the approach. We have to come out like those are cup finals. I hate that to say that, but they kind of are for us. And if they come out as flat and as disorganized and lame as we did against Everton over the weekend, then we don't deserve to be top 4. But we're going to have to get maybe 13 or 14 out of the last 18 points.
Do you guys think you'll make top 4?
I think we will. I think that I think we'll make top 4, just because I know that Tottenham, United, Chelsea all have to play Liverpool, City, and then I think some of them play each other. So points are going to be dropped around us. I don't think Tottenham, I mean, Harry Kane goes out or Son, they're a completely different side. Chelsea, God knows what team. I mean, they could lose today 4-1 to West Ham. You just never know who's going to show up. So I think we will make top 4. I think that it's going to be tough against Watford because Socrates is out, but we also have Torreira returning, Mike, and we all know he is a pit bull. He has not played for a good month now, and so he's going to be fresh.
Comes back fresh.
He's going to come back fresh. We've got Ramsey, who's likely going to rotate in. We live in a world where, and we talk about this a lot, we live in an Arsenal world where when we win, it's Emery's team. When we lose, he still has Arsenal's players. We live in a world where Xhaka is the worst football player to ever wear an Arsenal shirt. Now everyone's like, holy shit, we really miss him. Unless you're Lee Gunner, who just never misses him. I love you, but your opinion is wrong. So, we just live in this like mountains, peaks and valleys, right? But we have enough players returning. And I think for the last stretch of matches, depending on what happens in Europa League, we have enough talent to see us through. So, Sam, I do think we finished top 4. We might sneak in. It should have been way more comfortable. I mean, again, no disrespect to Everton, but if we had walked away from there with 3 points, like I thought we should have comfortably, then I think that would have been the perfect boost. But now, as Mike just said, we're facing a tough match away. We never play Watford well. I mean, they are essentially our like Bolton from the early 2000s, where we go away
Southampton
to them
for the last 10 years.
We just lose. I mean, and
if we lose against Wolves and Watford away from home,
we fucked.
Then I think you can forget.
We fucked. But Wolves, like Sam said to me yesterday, our 2 center backs are the slowest center backs in the league, and Wolves love to counter at speed, as Everton did a lot yesterday. So something needs to change. But I think having Torreira come back and just sit in that midfield and just fuck everything up is what we've missed the last couple matches.
Last couple of seasons, I'd say.
Well, yeah. He's an absolute, like he's become a legend at the club already.
Because, really? He is a great player.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but he's a player where we'll have him for 3 to 4 years, and then Barca or Real are going to come in and go, here's 90 million, and he'll go. And, how can you blame him not to? Unless we turn into a European super house, which we're not going to.
Well, and you almost make that deal if you've identified and groomed a couple of players who are coming. I mean, it's what you do with the replacement, and if you have those constant replacements, that's why teams like Ajax and Dortmund. I mean, the real selling clubs, they're selling these players who are their best players, but they're constantly reloading with players who can do the job almost as good or turns out better, and they're 60 million in the red. In the black, sorry.
Yeah. Sam, where do you expect Everton to finish this season?
If you asked me that 3 weeks ago, I'd say bottom half. But I think now we've got the momentum on our side. And I think Wolves are going to be – I mean, this kind of relates to you as well. I think Wolves are going to be hurt by the Watford semi-final the other day because that's gutting for them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that could play into our hands. West Ham are losing. So I think we'll finish 7th. Not that I want to, because that's like starting your season in May, right? On the
Yeah, because 7th probably goes into Europa this year, right?
Yeah, so it'll be the first qualifying round in the Ukraine and May the 1st or something. So it's not great for a team. We've suffered before with that.
But you have a team now where you could probably do some damage and get through those, and you have a manager who's probably a little bit more savvy working in that type of scenario.
That's very true.
But you get good money. Mike, we have Napoli on Thursday. I don't know if Ospina is playing. I hope he is, because I think that helped us.
Didn't he almost die a couple of weeks ago though? Like injury wise? I mean, he had one of the worst concussions I've ever seen, and I think like literally they were worried for a while. So whether he played or not from a coach's decision or from a loanees can play, which they can in this competition, I don't know that he's fit enough, and I didn't have to check whether he played last weekend or not. But
the loanee situation is if Arsenal allow him to play against us, he can play. If we allow him to, then he can play.
Can we decide that he has to? Can we be like, you must start him?
Yeah, I don't know.
I know that he had a very serious head injury a couple of weeks ago, and I would doubt that he's going to be fit to play that. But
I'm just looking it up now. It looks like he has a very bad head injury. They said he collapsed on the pitch. I didn't know
that sounds familiar. Yeah, no, it was one of those. It was one of those where he hurt himself and then was stupidly allowed to continue to play, which I cannot believe is still happening. in world football. And then in
They put him on oxygen.
a couple minutes later or 20 minutes later, he just collapsed. I mean, that's deadly. I mean, that can really screw you up.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I mean, we were playing Napoli at home on Thursday, so 7-0.
Yeah.
And then we'll lose 8-0 in the return match.
Mike, how nervous are you for tonight?
First I thought you were talking about Raw. No, my college basketball team is playing the national it's a year of champions for me. First the Caps winning the Stanley Cup. Then Kofi Kingston winning his championship match last night, which I know you were rooting for. I didn't think you would. But yeah, I am nervous, and I'm frankly going to be at an event where I got to watch it on my phone, and it's ridiculous timing. But yeah, I'll be rooting for me, man. Be rooting for me.
I will. I hope that you guys win. It should be a fun match. It should be a fun.
I have an important announcement to make.
I think everyone has known this for a long time, and I'm glad you finally are owning up to it.
No, the announcement is that our beloved Danny the GFP has had the shits all day. He's blaming gluten, and it's important that we allow you, the user, to have that knowledge and do with it what you feel that you want to do.
Best of luck to you, Danny, and
he's also naked right now.
In the bath.
Just in the bed. He's in the bath. This is our prototypical listener right here. What do we do? What do we do with that now?
All I just want to say, Mike, to your champions situation is this. I'd like to say first that, and again, I'm going to ask you the question: has any team ever won the Stanley Cup and then had the number one pick the next season?
Who cares? I don't know.
We're gonna end up with the 10th pick in the draft and then not win a game in the playoffs.
Well, that's how it's going. I'll see you in Denver in May, and then I'll see you again in June, and then I'll see you again in August or July. I'm getting my months mixed up. We ready for some user questions?
We are.
Because I am traveling, I have these on my phone. So let's start with Dean Worley, who's in the chat with us right now. Hypothetical question here. It's really not that hypothetical. If the top four finish as they are right now, Liverpool, City, or in some order or another, Liverpool, City, Scum, and Arsenal, and both Manchester United and Chelsea win their European competitions while finishing 5th and 6th in the league or anywhere outside the top four, does that bump us out of the Champions League next season? The answer is yes, it would, because the most teams from any one federation that can enter the competition is 5, and that is ever since the Europa League started awarding a Champions League spot. So you don't get knocked out if one of those teams wins a competition, but you would get knocked out if both of those teams do. So I'm not really too worried about that. I don't see United winning the Champions League. Chelsea winning the Europa, that could happen, given I think they have a really easy tie in the quarters, but yeah, that would definitely knock us out. So that's another reason to shoot for 3rd, which we had in the bag until yesterday. That happened with Tottenham a few years ago, right before they changed the rules. When Chelsea won the Champions League against Munich, Tottenham got knocked out. That was it was like a Sophie's choice. Like, do we want Chelsea to win the Champions League, or do we want Tottenham to get knocked out of the Champions League as a result? And I think I ended up happier that Tottenham got knocked out. Nothing to do with the rivalry, though. I said I hate Tottenham.
I'm glad you're catching on.
Yes. So Rudy Wilson says, who do we play at the back in the next game? And that is obviously a nod to also the Tokyo Gooners question, which says Socrates will be suspended in the next 2 games, Premier League games. What's your solution? So Andy, obviously being the Arsenal mind of the podcast, what's our backline formation going to be against what are our next 2 games against Watford away and Palace at home?
Hold on, I'm just telling John Horlick to fuck off. because it's correcting my grammar. What? No.
With Socrates out, who's going to be our back line? What formation do we set up with? Who's going to be in there? Do we see one of our youngsters in a crucial time of the season like that?
I mean, no. I think we'll probably just go with Nacho.
So three centers.
Yeah. I think we'll just work in Nacho. Maybe we'll drop to 2. I don't know, Mike. It's a good question.
We're kind of screwed. This was not.
Well,
the time
where's
of the season.
Koscielny? Is he still hurt?
He's recovering from an injury.
Maybe he'll be back. He always seems to come back.
He just keeps coming back. He's recovering from a mild case.
It's like herpes. He goes away for a while and then he just comes back.
I would almost name the podcast Koscielny is like herpes.
I'll name that on iTunes.
Okay, good. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it hurts our ability to play 3 at the back. Although I don't know that our ability to play 3 at the back was ever really that much of an ability, as we, it seems to be more of a liability. So, Monreal could play. I guess if Monreal slots into the center and we play Kolasinac at left back in a back 4, which is not his strongest position, that might be what we have to do. And Danny has some sympathy from David Pierce now, who's showing him some love for his diarrhea. Next user question is, I think we might be done, actually. No, Demon Gooner. Here we go. At Demon Gooner. Let's suppose you're being paid £350,000 per week. Like 80% of Arsenal questions start with that. Plus benefits. Do we know what benefits he gets above the 350? I mean, as a highly skilled employee, wouldn't it be unreasonable for those paying you to expect you to fulfill your job specification to a standard consistently and substantially above that of your coworkers earning considerably less? In a business, yeah, I suppose so. Where salaries are in a commission-based business, you would expect to see that be the case. In a non-commission-based business, you get what you don't get what you pay for. But he can throw a jacket though. What was that?
He can't throw a jacket.
What was that about? We watching in the pub, you don't get to really hear the commentary, and so you miss a lot of the subtleties. But I mean, he threw it almost onto Emery, right? But he certainly wasn't throwing it at Emery.
No, there was a kerfuffle between Emery and.
It's not even an English word.
Was it with who was it with, Sam?
It was Emery and Silva, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
For someone tackled
Toffee challenge, which was a dirty challenge.
Yeah,
so it was the 2 of them going at each other, Mike, and I think Ozil just threw the jacket in that general direction of Everton.
He figures whoever I hit, I'm beefing with anyway, so I might as well just throw it at
him. I don't know what he's trying to achieve by doing that. Is he expecting a reaction?
No.
Was he cold? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but the media caught wind of it. To answer the question, Mike, again, I go back to what we talked about earlier. You have football players, and then you have everything after that. And there's a lot after that comes with Mesut Ozil. And so you pay him £350,000 a week to be a footballer and more. He rates 10 every time with the and more. He just doesn't rate that highly on the football side right now. So I think that the club and the team are probably happy with what he's doing. Emery came out this week and had very good words to say about his increased work ethic, how he was doing his best to fit in. Sam kind of pointed out in the beginning of the podcast, making him captain is ridiculous. I get that, but it's not always based off of how well a player does on the pitch. Bergkamp
hasn't he performed quite well when he's been made captain this season, which normally has come against Cardiff.
And to be fair to him, Mike, the last 2 months he's been a decent player. Carrick on Match of the Day said that he thought Ozil was the best player for Arsenal yesterday. I didn't see it, but
not yesterday. But I would agree that he's starting to come good a little bit.
Yeah, when the whole team is playing poor, you can't single out one player. But there's more to being a captain than just being that great player. I mean, Bergkamp was never a captain because he couldn't be the voice. And based off of how good of a player it was, you'd think he'd have the armband every week. So to answer the question, I do think he does more for his $350 a week. But let's also keep in mind that he is BFFs with Josh Kroenke, who now basically runs Arsenal. So when you're best friends with the owner, you're going to get paid.
He certainly works the angles.
But you know what, though, Mike? He's working the manager right now who lost faith in him and who basically said he doesn't have a future at the club. And now we're hearing the manager say he does have a future and he's wearing our armband. So I said last week, I'm going to say it this week, he will be at Arsenal next season.
Well, I think he'll be there for one reason or another. I mean, it may not be because he's seen as the future. It may be because he refuses to go anywhere else. But I would be happy to see him offloaded in the summer, and not because of his play on the pitch. Although occasionally because of his play on the pitch. But I mean, it's not that he's not good. It's that he's just too much. It's holding us back in my mind from moving forward as just a complete unified unit of players who all basically do as the players did for George Graham in the early years, and just do what he says and get inspired by what he says. There's too much, sectioning of the locker room and of the public and the media that happens as a result of him, and it may not even be his fault anymore, but it needs to end.
Spot on, Mike. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, normally everything I say is, but you're not here to tell me that, and so I get insecure about it.
Well, I will be next time. I will be.
This is gonna be a new regular. I'm replacing Andy with there's an out clause where I'm actually able to remove Andy from the podcast, even though it was his idea to do the podcast, as long as it's a member of his blood family that joins it.
As long as it's a Rhodes, it's
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you know, Mike, I'm a yes man, so I'll just everything you say is brilliant. I'm
there
a big
we go.
Fan, big fan.
I do want to make one additional comment, Mike. We have a troll. We have someone who is stalking me. I don't know why.
This was fantastic.
So I get trolled by Arlo White, and you had to bring it to my attention. I would have seen it eventually, but you're like, does dude follow you or something? What's going on?
You post something pretty
just casual about having Sam, who was already talking shit about Everton winning, being on the pod and making a mistake as a joke. To which Arlo White responds.
Arlo White, for those that aren't familiar, the number one play-by-play announcer for the Premier League here in the U.S. on NBC, who apparently really doesn't like Andy.
Well, and there's reason to that, Mike, and we have had Donnybrook in the past, yeah, that fucker came out and said, I blame the commentary. And I was like, where did this come from? He's literally been sitting on this beef for quite some time now and picked the right moment.
So what was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. So he does the game.
And then within
4 hours later, from whatever wind down there is after you do a game, after you put the headphones off, you
within an hour of ending his day,
all he's doing, he's on his phone looking at tweets like, how can I troll Andrew Rhodes from the city in Denver, near Denver, that I won't mention on the air.
And I did make a comment
because I don't want Arlo to find out where he lives.
I did make a comment last week during that ridiculously embarrassing Spurs opening, how Arlo must be happy to finally be home because he is a Spurs supporter.
Well, he's a Leicester supporter most of all, but he does seem to strongly. Maybe when Leicester was never, when they were in the second division for so long, he kind of adopted Spurs as his, as his real team. But we know he's a Leicester supporter. He's from Leicester, I believe. But
I think I don't think he supports anyone except for Spurs personally, just for the way he commentates on them. He seemingly seems like a nice family man, and he's good at what he does.
And the second he contacts you, you roll over and start acting like he's best friend.
No,
I found myself being more vitriolic towards him than you.
You have yelled at me for being mean to people, so I just writ it off as, "Hey man, good to hear from you," and I let it go.
Sam, you know who? What's his name from the Eagles? The guy that
Jay
Ajayi.
Yeah.
Football player who was on the Dolphins. He got traded to the Eagles, and then they won the Super Bowl. And he's a massive Gooner. And I'm like, dude, we gotta try to get this guy on the pod. We probably won't be able to, and he's probably a little busy right now. But when things settle down, we'll get him on the pod. So Andy's a Dallas Cowboy fan for some fakakta reason, and I mean he's from Hemel Hempstead, and he's lived in Milwaukee and Denver, and he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. Front runner.
We know why.
So he's like, fuck that guy. He's Philadelphia Eagles. He plays for the opponent. It's like that guy never coming on our podcast. I'm like, Mike, that was fine. That was fine in the second or third week when like we knew no one would come on our podcast anyway, so we could talk shit about them. But we've had some people. Imagine if you talk shit about John Burkow, and then I'd asked him to come on the podcast. He wouldn't have done it.
There are two.
That was the highlight of my season so far.
There are two sports teams I will not let my son don the jersey of. One is Tottenham Hotspur. Second is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are in the same realm in existence to me. Fuck any and all association with both clubs.
Well,
I'm sorry.
All right, so you wouldn't. All right, yeah. I mean, we know other pods that have had Gary Lineker on, and I'm sure it was a great pod. But
if Jay Ajayi agreed to come on our podcast, would I be cordial? Yes. Okay. Would I ask him why he plays for that shit scum of a team? Yes. So,
and that would be a 4-minute podcast. We got one more good user question, actually, from Sadine Siad. Does anyone else think that we were literally bullied yesterday by Everton players? Arsenal players need to increase the size of their balls next season. And Dial Square comes up with a follow-up, which is, who do you think has the smallest balls in the team? Now, Andy, you've measured this. You did a science project in junior high school on this.
Extensive research. I do think we were bullied. I think that Everton, and Sam, you'll disagree with me here, I think they went to ground easily in the first 20 minutes of the match, which allowed the referee to kind of dictate the course of play. But then after that, and it's brilliant tactics, they started being a little bit more aggressive. So then the referee thinks, oh, they're just retaliating to what's been happening. They're evening the score. And it's a great tactic, and I think it worked very well for them. However, Mike, we missed the Xhaka and Torreira type of players that when that happened, they're the first people over there with a finger in the face of that Everton player say, hey, fucking do it one more time and you're going to see what happens. And you need those type of players on the pitch. I mean, Everton have had 2 or 3 of those type of players in their career where I think it was recently Ian Wright was saying something about Big Dunk. Like, you didn't want to get on his bad side because you knew you were getting a boot in the ass if you did. So you're always nice to him. And people would say the same about Tony Adams. You respected him on the pitch because you didn't want to get a knee in your back. So I think there's just certain players who are on the pitch, and I think Xhaka has that mentality. A lot of people complain, oh, he gets a stupid yellow card. He's like that hockey enforcer. He'll do it to the player at the moment to let them know, hey, you fucked one of our players, now I'm fucking you. We're evening this. And then it generally lightens up. But it was good tactics from Everton yesterday because from minute 1, they were mind-fucking us, and by minute 15, the match was already lost. We were completely second to every ball because they had already created the rhythm and dynamic of the play.
Yeah, mentally, I think we was ahead.
Yeah.
And that's our problem is that without physically being ahead in the game, we are always mentally behind. And you know, a year and a half ago, we talked about the cojones comment from Troy Deeney, and I said, you know, I don't like hearing it from him, but he ain't wrong. And, you know, guess who we go to play on Monday night? You know, we're going to Watford to play Troy Deeney and the Cojones boys. And, you know, so we better sack up a little bit more, you know, between now and next Monday if we don't want to, you know, sacrifice the ability to finish 4th. So I think that's about it, boys.
Thank you so much. I wish you and Kirsty the best here. Our family's about to grow in the next couple weeks. So
many thank yous.
Be in touch.
Mazel tov in advance for that. But also just mentioning to anyone that's listening Thursday, if you are in the New York area or if you are rich and can fly to the New York area, come and see Tom Canton from the Gooner Talk. He's not flying in. He's jetting in. I didn't tell you this. Andy, I put Tom in touch with Gav Marcotti to do a preview for Napoli, which is out now. Listen to it; it's really good, and it starts with the typical comments about how fast I used to be. But I put them in contact, and he's like, they're emailing back and forth, but I'm on the email. So he's like, does Monday work? Because on Tuesday I'm jetting to New York. Like, who says jetting to New? Like he was trying to seem so cool. He's like, like, oh, my girlfriend and I are flying to New York for vacation. No, I'm jetting to New York on my next, my next worldwide trip. But anyway, he will be in New York. I am in New York right now, and we will be along with hopefully Drew doing a live podcast in front of the bartender at O'Hanlon's after the Napoli game. So we'll have a good talk there, and come and join us if you can. Otherwise, please remember to vote for us, for Same Old Arsenal, and for Gandramonium in the Football Blogging Awards, footballbloggingawards.co.uk. Subscribe to our podcast. I'm pointing up here because supposedly there should be a little link to click on, and that's it. Have a good week, fellas. Sam,
Thanks, Sam.
Lovely to meet you. Sorry that it came after the shit show from yesterday, but I'm better that than have you be all angry and bitter.
Yeah, that's the only
he
reason
only
I'm on.
came on because I said that Kev might be joining us.
Oh, well, yeah, I conveniently forgot to tell you that didn't work out. But
yeah, what time's he coming on, actually? Soon?
He's coming. He's actually been on just listening to the whole time. So
classic Kev.
Yeah, we'll see if I could not believe when I went to see Everton play Palace earlier this season in October, I think, and when we went up there, we happened to notice that Kevin Campbell was doing a bit before the game in that little courtyard area with all the beer and so we make eye contact, and which is it's a thrill that he recognizes me just by my face. I mean, once you see this face, you don't forget it, but. And so after the game, we meet up at the pub, and he is just mobbed. I mean, he is so beloved. I've drank with him at a pub in London, and I've drank with him at a pub outside of Everton, the one right along the side of the street.
The Winslow. Is it the Winslow?
Yeah, the Winslow. And I mean, he's left alone by everyone other than the people he's with in Arsenal, and in Everton, he was a superstar. And I said, how can you still favor Arsenal from a heart perspective? He's like, I forget what he says. He's like, my heart is with Arsenal, but I love Everton, and he was so beloved there.
Oh, he saved us from getting relegated single-handedly. He's an absolute legend. Absolute legend. I love him.
I wish he got more respect in Arsenal circles, but he deserves all that he can get. So anyway, have a great week. Cheers to you guys, and come on, you Gooners.